What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Under.Buisness.Mindset. I am your host, Nestor Liberato. On Instagram, it's Next Level OC. If you guys haven't followed me yet, go ahead and follow me now. Go ahead and follow the podcast as well. This is going to be a platform for aspiring entrepreneurs and business owners who are striving something bigger than themselves. And as well, we like to bring individuals who specialize in their field so they can go ahead and talk about their expertise in that field. Today, I'm joined with Natalie, who is your CPA. She's been doing it for quite some time now. She's here to drop some gems for you guys, especially those that are trying to start their business or have already established a business. This is going to be the podcast for you. Natalie, welcome to the episode.
Thank you very much.
This was long overdue, honestly. I think so.
I'm excited to be here.
So just a little context, guys. So right in the same building, Natalie is kind of my neighbor. That's how we kind of got to know each other. But I'm excited about this episode, and you guys will see why. But Natalie, I'm very excited that you're here.
Thank you.
I know that you're going to drop some gem on these guys. So, but first and foremost, who is Natalie? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So Natalie is. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm a CPA by day, and I own my own firm. We have a full staff. We're a full service accounting firm, so we offer bookkeeping services, payroll services, sales tax, tax planning, tax advisory, tax return preparation. I also sit on the board of some of our companies, and I sit in on their financial meetings. And I also help with business sales and acquisitions. So
You know what? Let's start there, Natalie, because we were just talking off camera, and she was saying that some of the millennials, some of the younger folks, don't know what a CPA is, and I was telling her that all we know is taxes.
Yep.
All we know is that you do taxes. We don't even think about bookkeeping or accounting or anything like that. But let's just start there. Like, what separates you, right, from a regular tax person per se?
So there a lot of firms, smaller firms, they really only offer a very small amount of services, and they just focus on one niche, and that's pretty much it. So I'll explain a couple of different types of firms. So there are what some of us in the industry call chop shops. And it sounds bad, but it's not with bad intentions that we say it. But it's basically those are the people who don't really want to work the full 12 months out of the year. They really want to focus on tax season. So they just take whatever information you bring in or you drop off to them or send in, however you get it to them. Do the tax return, say this is what you owe or this is your refund, and send you on your merry way. Then there are other firms that, they do the tax planning and the tax preparation. They might offer audit, review, and compilation services as well. But they don't really dabble in the bookkeeping or payroll or those other services.
I got you.
Because they just focus on the bigger stuff and that's it. And then there's the other full service firms that have a lot of offshoots, so that way the client isn't having to go into 10 different professionals.
Everything will be all in-house.
Everything in-house. And so that's really what I've been trying to focus on building, is having a firm that's, got the sales tax division, got the payroll tax division, has the tax preparation and planning division, has more like the business coaching side. And I mean, hopefully I'm hoping that one day we can get into some other industries that aren't just accounting related, but still keep the client from having to go to, again, 20 different professionals. And those professionals can just work in-house together. But that'll take some time to get there.
Of course. Yeah. No, definitely. So what got you, I guess, kind of into this industry? What introduced you? Was it, family members? Was it just a specific field that you're like, you know what, this is interesting for me?
Is actually a mixture of things. So, first thing is, yes, I love numbers. That's always everybody's first question or statement is, oh, you must love numbers. And it's like, actually, yes, I genuinely love numbers. Yeah, I am a nerd. Okay, we'll just call it what it is.
That's good, though. That's good.
Full-fledged nerd here, okay? So I do love numbers. When I went into college when I was younger, I really didn't know what I wanted to be. Yeah. I knew it needed to be something around the business world. Okay. I grew up around business my whole life. My parents were very successful entrepreneurs. My grandmother owned her own small business. If some of my aunts and uncles have owned some of their own businesses. Yeah. So I just always kind of felt that pull towards business. So when I went into college, I chose a business major. And I was sitting down with my counselor one day and I said, I have no clue what I want to do except for probably own businesses one day.
There you go.
Don't care what kind. I just need to own a business. Okay. I just feel it in my bones.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, what do you like? Like, what is your thing? And I was like, numbers. And he goes, well, have you ever thought about being a CPA? And I was like, no. And he's like, its basis is accounting. I think that would be a good thing for you to get into. And then obviously if you took that somewhere else and owned a business one day, that would be wonderful. But I think that would be your thing, is being a CPA. So I said, okay. So I emphasized my classes in accounting in school. And I also worked with my mom in their office. She did all like the internal books and everything.
So you got hands-on even.
So yeah, I got hands-on at a very young age. I started helping her with their QuickBooks and bookkeeping when I was 17. So I've been using QuickBooks forever because of her. So, she taught me how to do payroll. She taught me how to enter bills. She taught me how to reconcile bank accounts. So I learned at a pretty young age, like the basics of accounting, because even to this day, I help clients sometimes. And they're like, how do you remember all this in QuickBooks? And I'm like, honestly, I've been doing it for so long.
It's already ingrained in you.
I'm like, it's just it's like an extension of me. So she started me pretty young. I did struggle with the idea of being an accountant at first, because when I first graduated school and I started going and interviewing at accounting offices, I was like, oh, these people are stiff. Just very, they didn't seem to have a lot of personality.
Oh, like very cold, very firm, very...
Yes.
I got you.
Yeah, there was no up, down, laughter. The way they dressed was very boring, to be honest. And I had a big personality when I was younger as far as the way I dressed and stuff. I wore a lot of color, was always into fashion.
You expressed it.
Yes.
With your fashion.
Yeah, I was very into fashion when I was younger. My hair was done every day. I had my makeup on. So I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I feel like I'm going to become one of these boring people. But I kept at it because it was at a weird time with the economy. We were coming up. It was between 2006 and 2008.
Oh, so
when I first, was graduating and then going on my interviews and stuff. So, as we all know, the economy tanked
yes.
during that time. And
if you're at my age, you should remember that.
Yes. And, jobs became more scarce, but accountants have jobs whether the economy's up or down. People have to know whether they're losing money or making money,
exactly,
regardless. So there was no, basically out of all my friends, I was the only one really going on a lot of interviews and was able to get a well-paying job right out of school. So I went into the field, still struggled with the boring thing. I was like, God, I don't know. This seems miserable. And I came home one day and I told my parents, I was like, I don't know if I can do this for the rest of my life, to be honest. I was like, this is really eating at my soul here. Yeah. And they both were just like, well, who says you have to be like every other accountant? Who says you have to be a boring accountant? You don't have to be.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And, you can be whatever you want. So I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I can be.
I was like, yeah. So I went in the next day wearing this clothes I wanted to wear, turned on my rap music, and never looked back.
So. Now, for those, right, that think that this is difficult because they're just hearing that, you went to college and all that stuff, do you really need a college degree? Does it help? Or can you just go and get that license? Or how does that work, right?
No, you have to have a college degree. It's part of the requirements.
Gotcha.
There's a minimum number of units in accounting courses you need, business courses, ethics. And then you have to have 2 years experience underneath another CPA.
Okay.
And then they have to sign off on your experience. And then you take exams, and they're pretty rigorous exams. I believe there's still 4. There was 4 when I took it.
Okay.
And you had to pass all of those within 18 months of each other. And once those are passed, then you apply for licensing with the state, take that ethics exam with the state, and once you pass that, you can get your license.
And then keep in mind, guys, we're in the state of California, so, right, it's obviously it varies depending on the state, right?
It does vary depending on the state and your continuing education. It's pretty rigorous. We have to have 80 hours every 2 years, which, believe it or not, is more than doctors.
No way.
Yes. On doctors, I think around 50, 55. And we're
That's
at
shocking.
80. Yeah.
That's shocking.
So,
God.
yeah.
Fun fact.
Yeah, there you go. It's a fun fact. Yeah.
Okay.
And hence why a lot of accountants are miserable. Or
Okay.
alcoholics, one of the two.
I mean, they got to cope somehow. So
Yes,
I understand. A lot of numbers,
exactly.
I understand.
Exactly. Yes.
Now, when you talk to, well, let's start in the beginning, right? Who were like your first clients, right? How were you able to get
Like
them?
when I went out on my own.
Yeah,
and
when you
started
went
my
out on your
firm.
own. Yeah.
So my first clients, believe it or not, followed me from my old firm where I worked at for a long time.
No way. Okay.
I was a manager there when I left, and yeah, my initial clients, and they're still, all of them are still with me today. The ones that are alive, let's just say that. Unfortunately, like rest in peace. But a couple of them have passed, unfortunately. But yeah, those were my first clients. They followed me from my old firm because I worked so closely with them before, and they had a lot of trust with me. So
I think it makes sense to keep a CPA long term than just switching up. How is that transfer per se? Now I'm just curious.
yeah.
Like, let's say they work with you, right?
Uh-huh.
And then I guess they move out of state or whatever the case may be, and they met somebody else. Like, how would that, I guess, transition happen? Do you have to send them all their stuff over? How does that work?
So if they choose to go with another CPA, it's not up to us to actually send anything over to the new accountant.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah, it's actually up to the client to,
Okay.
to provide the information to the new accountant. Now, that being said, I have, and I'm sure all CPAs out there have been requested from the new accountant to provide some things that maybe the client didn't have access to anymore, didn't save or whatever. And sometimes we are able to send those things with the client's permission.
Nice.
Some things, we don't. Those are our work papers also. So I have been asked for things that actually I was like, no, that's not going. Sorry.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll give
because you need the owner's permission.
well, there's certain work papers that are ours for the file.
Oh, okay.
It's not
For
the
record.
yeah, it's not the client and it's not the new accountant.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there are certain things where it's like, no, you got to figure that out on your own. I had to. It's your turn now.
Now, you being in the industry for quite some time, right? Like, what have you noticed? Is there a trend that you noticed? Like, have older, folks still keep in contact with you compared to new folks? Have you seen like a shift in that, like with newer business owners and all that? Or it's mostly like the older generation.
So I guess you could say that not the accountants, the clients are very different.
Okay.
As you go across like the age spectrum. So I have clients that are older that have been with me for a long time. That they have a rhythm. They a lot of them know what they're doing. They don't need me every second of the day.
I got you.
And they're pretty self-sufficient on their own. Besides maybe having a few questions throughout the year, a little bit of tax planning, and that's about it. Now, granted, I do have some older clients that have very complex situations that I probably talk to once every 3 or 4 days.
Interesting.
Yeah, but that's because they're running a lot of different companies, and I maybe I've been too nice sometimes, but I've always. There's no. I have a very difficult time saying no. So when somebody calls me and asks me for advice or help, I always go out of my way to help them. So sometimes I think I've become a little bit of a crutch for some people.
I got you.
And
But I mean, it helps you in the long term for sure.
It does. Yeah.
It helps you in the
yeah,
long term.
it's helping them. Sometimes it helps me. Sometimes I learn something new. So because I'm like, oh yeah, sure. Let me research that for you. Let's figure it out.
Interesting.
For the younger generations, I mean, we're starting to get a bigger influx of like younger generations coming in. So I'd say anywhere between like 30 to 45 is really starting to come in and utilize more CPA services. I'm finding that generation needs a lot more hand-holding than what the older generation needed to when they were the same
No,
age.
I mean, it's understandable. Like, when would you say, I know we talked about it off camera, but for someone like my age, right, like a millennial between those ages 30 to 45, and they have their own business, when do you think it's appropriate to kind of like establish a LLC or S corp, or should they talk to somebody first?
Hmm.
When it comes to that, when would you say is an appropriate time?
Oh, actually, before they establish the entity.
Oh,
Yes.
okay,
And that's because there's a lot of misinformation out
for
there
sure.
as
Hmm.
far as what entity structure is best for you.
Yeah.
Uh, so I usually recommend people actually speaking to a CPA and or an attorney before they even form one, because there's been a lot of newer business owners that have come to me and I'm like, oh, you probably have the wrong entity structure for
And
what it is that your goals are, or how your partnership is set up, or so a lot of times we have to either send them back to the attorneys to redo everything that
yeah,
they did, or
damn.
make certain elections to get LLC to an S corp or something like
Eggs.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like at least with me, right? The only two entities that I've learned about,
Mhm.
obviously, were LLCs and sole proprietors.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, I didn't know about S corp. I didn't know about C corp. Um, but I think it's very important. You're definitely right to talk to somebody first before you fucking establish an entity for sure. But do you? I know you. You're very honest for
Uh-huh.
sure. Um, if somebody were to tell you, like a plumber, let me give you two examples.
Mhm.
Somebody who wants to start a plumbing business, right? Like a blue collar job, compared to somebody who has, I don't know, a clothing brand.
Yeah.
Are they the same entity? Or like, should they open the same entity, or is one more LLC type and one more S corp type? How would you even establish that?
Um. So
Curious.
we would go through a couple of different things.
What kind of questions would you ask them if you don't
The
mind me
first thing
asking?
is like, do you have a business partner that's doing this with you?
Okay.
Um, if so, are you wanting your ownership to be equal? Because like, and if you go like an S corporation route, it's subject to payroll. Your distributions have to go according to your ownership percentage. It has much more stricter, tighter rules. An LLC is a little bit more lenient
Hmm.
as far as to how you do distributions, how the ownership is allocated, who puts in money, who puts in time. Um, there's also a lot of legal liabilities. So, like a plumber is going to have a lot more legal liability when they first start.
Of
I mean,
course.
just right off the bat.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're starting a clothing brand, you may not even really have any liability in the beginning. Like, let's say
Of course.
it's, you're just going to like markets or whatever and selling clothes, and it's not going to the masses yet. An LLC or a sole prop in the beginning may be just fine because you just don't have a lot of risk there in the beginning. So, and maybe you're just by yourself.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, especially with construction companies, there's a lot of liability, like
Of
any of those
course.
types of construction. So you have to really, really protect yourself with those types of entities.
Yeah. And you guys know, if you guys are in construction, get your stuff together. Now, there was another question that I was gonna ask you. Like, what would you? I use an online service in the beginning
Mm-hmm.
to get my LLC up and running.
Okay.
I didn't. They asked me the similar questions,
Uh-huh.
right? You had to answer yes, no, percentage, all that stuff. What do you think about those? I'm not gonna say names because I don't wanna, but like those online services where you can establish, your license already.
Yeah.
Do you do you recommend them? Do you not? What would you say about those?
Some of them are not bad. So, for example, I had a friend who had a little like consulting business, and she wanted the LLC
Hmm.
established. And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. You don't have to have it, but she really wanted a little bit of legal shield there just in case. And so I was like, all right. Um, I honestly put her on one of those online services. We did a screen share, and I just walked her through the steps
Nice.
because I knew it was fine. I was trying to help her keep her costs down because she was just getting off the ground, and she honestly didn't have a lot of money at that time. So I just spent 15, 20 minutes walking her through it. So some of them are okay, and just fine to use in the beginning. What we've done at our firm is we actually will help you form your entity at a very budget friendly rate. It's still above a lot of what those online services do, but at least you have a live person there to sit there and go back and forth with you and really recommend
Instead
things
of
the
a
right
bot.
way. Yes,
Yeah,
instead of a bot and somebody just going down the checklist of a
exactly.
manual that they created for
Yeah.
them. It's a real live human who's done this for 20 years.
Exactly.
Yeah. And this really, like, seen it all. I've seen partnerships go through breakups. I've been in partnerships that go
Yeah.
through breakups. So there's, I've seen people choose the wrong structures and why it ended up being the wrong structure. And, a lot of people just don't know in the beginning. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And those a lot of those places don't ask the right questions to get the right answer out of you.
Mm.
And just think of it this way too. If you mess up on something and you need to correct it, you go back to them to correct it. There's another fee for them.
Exactly. Exactly.
If they get it right every time the first time, there's no repeat customer. So
Exactly.
just saying. So yes. So they're not horrible, but it is better to use a live person if you can.
I got you. And now for those that are trying to establish like a business, right? Like, what would you recommend them? I know you said talk to a CPA and talk to an attorney first. Should you maybe create like a business plan first, or how would you? Because me personally, I would rather just do it myself, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's very hard to trust somebody with a partner and go 50-50 and whatever. Do you recommend just starting yourself first, and then if you want to add a partner later on, can you do that?
So okay. There's a mixture of things. Like I said, I went through partnership issues myself, even buying businesses and having issues with the seller, and things just don't work out the way you want them to. Happens all the time. Everybody goes in with the best of intentions, or at least you think everybody is.
Yeah.
And something goes awry along the way. I've been told by many people that they would never have a partnership ever again.
Mm.
Personally, my opinion now after the experiences I have had
Talk about it.
is you need to be the one with the leverage.
Yes.
And you just need to maintain control. Where I see most partnerships go wrong is when it's equal ownership.
50-50.
50-50 or 4 with 25 or 3 with 33.333. That's where I see the most argument. So I'm not allowed to give legal advice because I'm not an attorney, but for my clients personally, when they are about to embark on a partnership with someone, I always tell them it's good for somebody to hold a little bit more than the other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have at least like a main head, right?
Yes.
Instead of everybody being equal.
Yes, because it can happen where
Yeah.
it's like you got 2 against 2 or 1 against 1,
Yeah.
and then you just come to this dead stop where nothing can happen. Or, if it's a partnership of 4, 3 people gang up on one, so
Ugh.
yeah, you
Yeah.
have to be really, really careful. And the only way to truly learn is through experience, but, listen to your advisors because they will
Try to guide you
tell
towards.
you the warnings and things like that. So they're not going to keep you from everything. That is
Exactly. Yeah, I get you.
mean, but as sole props, or not sole props, but like a solopreneur in the beginning, there's nothing wrong with that.
There you go.
There's a lot to learn in
Of
your
course.
beginning years of business. So
And I like that. That's what I like about business, for sure. What would you say to those that I'm trying to think of a way to say it because I don't want to I don't want to offend anybody here, especially when it comes
you
to
can
this
offend
business.
me. It's fine. I won't.
Like when it comes to assets,
Yes.
right? When people say I have to protect my assets,
Yes.
I personally I have no idea what the hell that means, protecting assets.
Okay.
Can you describe that, like protecting your assets?
Sure. So, like, if let's say you own your home or you own your business, you don't want to put those things at risk, especially here in the wonderful state of California. People are very, very
Cali.
happy. Yeah. So, when you operate as like a sole proprietorship, your entity has no legal shield with the legal system at all. Like somebody can go in and take your personal assets because basically you're running your business personally
Under your name,
under
under
your
your
name,
social, not.
social, yes.
Gotcha.
So that is the whole point of like a single member LLC. It's to create a legal shield. It's actually not like a tax saving structure. So, and that's why corporations, like for certain entities, are important, and having living trusts and the right insurance in place and all that. So,
See, people don't know about the living trust.
they don't, yeah. You would be shocked how many people, how many clients I've come across that have a lot of assets, rental properties, personal residences, big money in their bank
Yeah.
accounts, and have never set up a will, never set up a trust. They don't have life insurance. It's a whole thing. And so that is actually one thing that I go through with a lot of my clients or new clients when I onboard them is I'm like, who's your financial advisor? Are you working with one? No? Okay, well, let me give you some options and some people who you can work with. Who's your insurance person? None? Okay, well, we got to get you in front of an insurance person. Who's your attorney that you're working with? Where's your living trust? We don't have one. Okay, let's get you in front of an attorney because you can tax plan to death. You can go out there and make millions, billions of dollars. And if you don't have your assets
Protected. That's
you can lose it all in a drop of a dime. So,
that's God. It's a lot. I'm not gonna lie to you.
yeah.
It's so how much money would you say, right? Like 1,500,000. We should start thinking about that stuff.
Oh, I would say less.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
I actually don't equate it necessarily with like cash.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
I equate it with assets that you have. So we can all own a home and not have a bunch in the bank because we have a mortgage payment.
Mm.
We can own a business, but it being in those beginning stages, there's no retained cash in the business. So it could just be, income in, expenses going out because you're reinvesting in the company all the time. You could have a retirement plan where that cash is put
Yeah.
away. So I actually don't go with like a cash number that you
Number.
have. I say, all right, let's go over assets that you have.
Interesting.
And anything, I believe the number is 180,000. Anything over 180,000 can automatically go into probate in the state of California if you pass away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and that's all your assets combined. So if you own a
Holy
home
cow.
here in California, it's
Yeah.
probably
Yeah, California is a little. I know what you mean.
yeah, it's your home alone probably is over that $180,000 value.
Hey, I just thought about this question
Yeah.
because you were mentioning assets, right? So let's just say me, an individual who has, this is, I have like two properties, compared to another person who still has the same amount of properties that I have, but this person has a business established already. Like, is he more protected than I am? Do we both have like the equal services? Is his tax deductions less than mine because he has a established business?
A business.
Compared to me, I don't have any businesses. I just like to buy properties and
Oh, okay. I see what
you know
you're
what I
saying.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So he's going to have more, the one with the business is going to have more opportunities available for tax planning strategies.
Yeah.
So, if you're just holding properties and they're out there for an investment, that's one thing. You can hold them long term. Obviously, if they go up in value and you sell them, you get them at long term rates, which is great. That is a tax planning strategy. But you're not being able to write off anything over time. So
Yeah.
the person with the business, they're going to be able to write off business expenses with their cell phone, their car, if they have a home office or office rent, things like that. So
And that works with all different classes of businesses like LLCs, S corp, all that.
yeah, so that's the entity structure for writing off your expenses. For some things that does come into play, but those are more like complex
Yeah.
tax saving strategies. But your everyday expenses, it doesn't matter which entity type that you
No
have.
way.
Yeah, It's
What?
yeah. As long as you're using it for business, it doesn't matter which entity type.
And see, at least with me, that's kind of why I got it online, right? Because
Uh-huh.
it all started. I heard this person say, "As long as you have your LLC, you'll be able to write anything off." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
The very, very famous statement that they all say online. Yes.
Yeah, I was like, "All right." So I got that right, but I've and I think it's my fault. I should have done a little bit more research. I should have gone to a CPA, like you were saying. But yeah, that was just in my mind. I was like, ah, fuck it. Like I have my LLC. I'll be able
Yeah.
to write things. But when I was working with my tax person,
Mm-hmm.
I told her, I'm like, hey, I have a LLC. She just sent me a spreadsheet. She sent me a spreadsheet with like all these columns, like gas, food, rent, all that stuff. I added it in there, but I didn't see any difference. Like if I would have done my taxes individually
Mm-hmm.
and then
Versus
did
the
it
LLC.
it was the same
It's the
shit.
same. Yeah.
And I was like, am I doing something wrong? Like, but it was my fault because I didn't ask her questions. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But I I guess
That,
what would have been the right thing to do at that?
yeah. So, okay. So that's where I say, before forming the entity, to contact an attorney or your CPA, because um, I get that question all the time, especially from the younger generation, because we have so much access to information
Mm-hmm.
now, and a lot of it's misinformation that we just there's just too much going on in our brains all the
Yeah.
time. It's on overload, and we think because it's on Instagram or TikTok and it looks like a professional person saying it,
Like it
that
must be
it
true.
must be. Yeah. And there is this these wonderful people. I'm not speaking bad about them, but they love to be online and call themselves tax strategists or tax advisors, and they're not actually like CPAs or even enrolled agents. A lot of them not even a CTEC,
God
which
damn.
yeah, which is a very basic tax preparer. Like it takes like an 8-week course. So, um, but they love to call themselves that, and there is actually like really genuinely no such thing. So there's no licensing with the state to become a tax strategist or tax advisor. There's no regulations with the state.
Damn, exposed.
Yeah, yes, yeah. So there you go, guys.
Exposed.
You're welcome. But they put a lot of misinformation out there because what they'll do is take some YouTube course that somebody gave them
Yeah.
and gives them a certificate and says, "Oh, congratulations, you're now a tax strategist."
That's crazy.
And yeah, and now they think they can do all these things and give people information that they really don't know and weren't formally trained to give people. So they tell everyone like, "Oh, yes, you want to write off your vacation to the Bahamas? Please just go form an LLC." And it's like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't work that way. And vice versa. A lot of people start businesses initially, and you got to think about how many businesses actually fail. And I'm not trying to go the negative part, but
No, statistically speaking.
yeah, statistically speaking, most fail, right?
Exactly. In the first, I think, 3 to 5 years.
Yes, 3 to 5 years, exactly. And if you're pushing out these expenses to go form the LLC, and then in California you got to pay the extra $800 a year plus your Secretary of State I think it's $25 a month fee, or year fee. You have these little extra expenses going out the door that maybe you don't really need to be paying
Mm-hmm.
because maybe you would have been just fine as a sole proprietorship to begin with. And it's not getting you any extra expenses. Like you're not able to write off anything additional from the LLC maybe than you were as a sole prop. So that's why I always say it's a good thing to check in with the advisors first, because there's a lot of questions they can walk you through to see if the LLC is even necessary in the beginning.
Natalie, you just opened my mind. Like I wish I would have met you like now 5 years ago now. Yeah, because I started my.
Of course you do.
Come on, like
obviously.
like I remember it was during COVID time.
Mm-hmm.
Just to give you guys a little bit of insight, it was during COVID time. Furloughed, was receiving the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
You know
The unemployment.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then I got a good chunk. And then in my mind, I was like, screw it, I'm gonna start a branding company.
Uh-huh.
So I bought the heat press. I bought the cutting machine to cut the vinyl. I bought that. I bought a hat press. I bought a bunch of hats. I bought a bunch of shirts, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and then this was after when I, went online and established my
LLC.
LLC.
Okay.
So I bought all that, right? And then I went into like music. So I bought microphones. I bought all this stuff, right? And I was like, in the end, I was just like, I'm gonna get this money back for sure. No, absolutely not. But I kept going, I kept going, I kept going. And then now, because, I didn't go to a CPA or an attorney, I didn't talk to them first. Like, now I'm what, 5 years in? I'm already 5 years in.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's, it sucks because I haven't seen any of that money back. And, I invested well over, maybe a good 7 to 15.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I haven't seen that. That's why I think it's important, Natalie. Like, at least the millennials, right? Because we're pretty much next to kind of take over, like, all the businesses that are coming up, all the old retirees that are ready to
Yes.
exit.
Yeah.
It's the millennials now
Yeah.
that are going to be taking over.
That transition is like literally starting now.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're
Yeah.
seeing it.
Yes, I'm seeing it. Yes.
And, but I think, I mean, I'm just going to say it. I think it's a little sad that we're not well informed about this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially at least me being a Latino, you know what I mean? A Hispanic community. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we, respects to those that, start their mowing company, landscaping company,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe they have their license, you know what I mean? Or maybe they're paying their employees under the table, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
But to be like legitimized, like, we don't know this information. When
Yeah.
I can't even talk to my parents about this
Right.
because they don't know the language, they don't know the tax codes, they
Yeah.
don't know any of that.
Yeah.
Um, like, which brought me to another question, like, why do you think, like, they don't teach this stuff in school?
Um, my
Your
honest opinion.
Yeah, your opinion. I'm curious to know. Yeah,
My honest personal opinion.
yeah.
I think that they would rather us grow up to be a lot of busy worker bees. I don't think they want to see a ton of entrepreneurs and business owners. And if we're too educated and we
That's
understand too much, you can't herd the smart cows. So,
mm,
like they got to herd us somehow. And yeah, if you're too well informed, you're not going to listen to what they got to say. You're going to form your own opinions and do your own things. So, um, in my opinion, they don't want to make you too smart when you're young.
and I've always thought about that too.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's why, at least for me, that's why I like this platform that I have because it's for my people, for anybody, honestly. But it does start. It started in my household.
Yeah.
Like, my dad and my mom especially, she would always say, "I want to start my business,"
Mm-hmm.
but I tell her, I'm like, "What stops you?" I don't know what to do first, and it's like,
They don't even
interesting.
know what step one is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, she knows how to do whatever product that she wants to do so she can sell it,
Yeah.
but like legally, and that's what she's scared of. She's just scared
Yeah.
that a cop may come and take away all her stuff, or she might go to jail,
Yeah.
and it's. I understand her mentality,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean. But this is why I think it's very important for us to know exactly how it works, ask questions, talk to a professional like
Yes.
Natalie,
Yeah.
before you even start anything. Because if you're going to mess up like me 5 years later and not take advantage of, the LLC, but, that's, it's,
Well, and I think like one of the other things is I mean, we all have friends. We all talk to our friends, and our friends live to give like unsolicited advice
yeah,
sometimes, or family, even. And there's a couple of things. Number one, your friends and family don't know everything.
they
Yeah,
don't. Yeah, it's fair to say.
yeah, they don't. They don't know everything, unless they are at a place unless they have been in a place where it is that you want to be.
Mm.
And I say that as like, okay, for example, like my parents were successful entrepreneurs before I was. And I'm not saying that, they're 100% right about everything that I do or everything about my business, but they know a hell of a lot more than I did when I first started. And they knew, I mean, yes, I'm a CPA, so there's certain things I was able to take care of myself when forming my business or my first business. But there were still things that I had to go to attorneys for and ask their advice. And even for example, my dad would be on some of those phone calls in the beginning, because he would understand some of the business things that the attorney was talking about better than I would. And he didn't know the answers to everything. He would have to ask the attorney some questions. But if you're listening to somebody who hasn't been in your shoes where you are now, or isn't somewhere where you want to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it's the wrong person to listen to.
Of course.
Yeah.
Stop listening to YouTubers, guys.
Yeah.
Or the TikTokers. Go to an actual professional in their office.
Yeah. I mean, because the thing is, like, you don't know where that TikToker or you know
Grab this information.
Yeah, where they got that information. So if you do listen to them, at least do your research beforehand. I mean, there are a couple of CPAs that I follow on Instagram. Obviously, it's not a ton because I know I can tell like the ones who know what they're talking about versus the ones who don't. And the ones who I follow on Instagram, I for sure know that the advice that they're giving is legit advice and they do know what they're saying.
Because you did your research, you did all that, and it checked out.
Yes.
Which makes sense.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying, guys. Yeah. Now, Natalie, for a business that's already established, right? Like, what would you say, what would be the best way to handle business debt?
So handling business debt. Well, okay, so I guess we need to go.
Let's dive right into it.
So a lot of us are really afraid of debt. It's got a really bad connotation with it. Mm-hmm. Not all debt is created equal. So I do tell people that, you know, credit card debt is obviously very different than having a mortgage on your house or, you know, carrying a loan on a business that you purchased or having a line of credit with the bank. Mm-hmm. I mean, my hope is that they do put some stricter laws on credit card companies because the interest rate they charge people is just...
Well, it's not even that. I mean, I'm sorry to stop you, but just the debt that we have in credit cards.
Oh, it's insane.
It's in the trillions.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's in the trillions, guys.
I don't think it can ever even be paid back,
nah.
to be honest. So, yeah.
Just another fact for you guys.
Yeah, fun fact. Actually, if you Google, I think it is the U.S. debt, you can see like the ticker of our debt, like, and it literally just runs like this. Like, it's a constant flow. It's not like, oh, you sit there and watch it for an hour and it goes up a little bit. Like, no, it's consistently increasing. Yeah. So it's that's for all you number nerds out there. You can watch it, but I always tell people it's not created equally. So it depends on what your business has and what type of debt you're incurring, and whether or not it's for growing the business or you're just buying, you know, a bunch of crap that you don't need, you know.
Because I know in real estate, for those that are like invested in real estate, they think of debt as a good thing. They use it to their advantage.
They leverage the crap out of it.
Can you explain for those that don't understand, like, why they think that's a good thing, at least for those that are investing in real estate?
Yes. So they try to put as much of their own cash at the least amount of risk as possible. So, for example, and I'm gonna simplify it pretty far down. So let's say you buy your first home and it is your home, okay? You take out a mortgage on it, you start paying it down, you got good credit, and you want to buy a rental property now. But you don't have enough cash to put down on that rental property. Mm-hmm. Or you're like, you know what, I really don't want to put my own cash in on that rental property right now, and I know it's going to turn a profit. You can possibly take out a second mortgage on your personal residence and use that to purchase the second property in that rental property. Now you haven't touched your cash, you've just leveraged your asset there, used some debt out of that, pay it off over 30 years to buy the second property. You're paying off that property with the rents that you're collecting. You're still not touching your own cash. That's still sitting there and growing from either your regular business or your W-2 job. A few years go down the road and you're like, hey, I found this other investment opportunity. It's a third property. I don't want to touch my cash still. It's growing. It's sitting pretty. You know, I built up the first loan on my personal residence, but, you know, I paid some of that down, paid some of the debt down on the second property. Now maybe I'll go out and take a loan on the second property and use that to buy the third property.
And then when you're saying you take out a loan, are you talking about like a HELOC? Or is
Um,
that different?
So it depends. You got to work with the bank to figure out which,
I got you.
which type of
Okay.
loan. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But you do, I mean, I guess I should premise it with this because I am the tax person CPA. You have to keep track of where the debt is going.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's
Okay.
that's the only thing. You have to keep track of what debt is going to which property because
Okay.
you do have to
That makes sense.
allocate that properly. So
No, yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
And that's crazy because for me, with the house, when I explain it to my parents, yeah, they don't know about HELOCs. They don't know about, possibly taking out a second mortgage. Like, all they think in their mind is just buying one property,
Yeah.
staying there for 30 years, eventually, owning it.
Yes.
And it's like, no, like, you can literally, get the money, put it down on a home, stay there for 3 to 5 years, build that equity, take out a HELOC if you want to, put it down another one, do the same thing, put a renter in there or whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
and then continue it like that.
Yes.
When I found that out, I was like, wow, why haven't we done this? Why haven't we done this?
Yes.
And I think the ones that have been becoming millionaires is because of real estate.
A lot of it's real estate.
Mhm.
I mean, not that you can't have a great W-2 job and make really good money in life. You can. But if you want to be up there with the top entrepreneurs and the very wealthy in our country, you have to have multiple revenue streams, albeit business, real estate, stocks, all the above. It's not coming from your W-2 wages. Like,
Exactly.
That's not where
No,
it's
it's not.
coming from. Yeah.
That's not how it works.
Yeah. And I get families, picking a home and wanting to stay there, and they get really excited of paying down their mortgage and watching it go away one day. And that is something to be proud of. It is something you accomplish, paying that off. I 100% understand that. I mean, debt does, create a headache,
It
and,
does.
you know,
For those that don't understand it,
for
though.
those that don't understand it, it does hurt. But, but if you really learn how to use it properly, you can use it to your advantage and build generational wealth as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it goes back to when you own assets, try to have a living trust,
Yes.
all that.
Yes.
Now I understand protecting your assets.
Yes, protecting your assets. Yeah.
And then, Natalie, I want to go back because you mentioned credit cards, right? And it was another thing that I thought about when I opened the LLC. But I was scared to open a business line of credit because obviously my credit score wasn't the best.
Okay.
I was like in the 650s, 660s, 70s, which somebody told me, another business owner, is like, bro, just do it. From there you can work at it. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but he was like, they don't use your social security to run your credit. They're running it through the LLC. So when I went to go talk to the banker, I was like, yeah, I want to open a business credit. And he told me to put my information down. And I was like, wait, like, you need my social? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, wait, aren't you going to run it through, the LLCs,
business, yeah.
And he's like, no, we have to do yours so we can kind of, and that's why I kind of,
That's why you shied away from it.
yeah, that's why I shined away from it.
So there are, so you just have to be careful when you open up a line of credit or credit card, because it can go both ways depending on how it's written. I mean, even me in the mail, I get credit card offers or lines of credit offers that sometimes it is strictly for my corporation, and they still ask me for the personal information just because it's also got my name tied to it.
Of
Like,
course.
let's say it's a credit card or whatever, but they are using the business credit in order to get me that line or that credit card, and if I was to default on a payment, if I was to do that, that dings the business credit, not my own.
That makes sense. Because that's how I had it in my mind, too. I was like, oh, I'm just going to take out the business credit card, buy everything that I need for the business. So it could be easier, for the tax person who's doing my taxes. They can take it out from there.
Yeah.
And I messed up. I think I should have done it. And now I think it would have been a little bit more established and all that.
Yeah.
Freaking Natalie. You're
It's
making me realize all this stuff, and I'm like, God, obviously I can't go back on my mistakes, but
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, we all learn from them, and it is preferable when you own a business to have your own business credit card and business loans separate from personal as much as possible.
yeah, because that's the thing that they told me. You got to separate both of them because
Hmm.
obviously you can't. It's called mingling,
Yeah,
right?
you don't, yeah. You don't want to commingle the funds as much as possible. When you first start a business, sometimes it is very difficult to get a credit card or line of credit.
Yeah.
That all depends on the economy at the time and what banks are willing to do. So sometimes you have to use your personal stuff, and you just have to track it, diligently, because if the IRS ever comes back and questions it, you have to prove like, okay, this was for the business.
I got you.
Yeah.
And then I know you talked a little bit about it, about obviously going to an attorney, talking to a CPA and all that. But what have you seen? What is some mistakes that you've seen business owners kind of, you know, do when it comes to their business? It could be either like tax evasion, it could be, mingling money. Like what mistakes have you seen? Let's
Com-
do like new businesses and then more established businesses. So let's start with
okay.
the new ones.
Let's start with new ones. Commingling is the biggest, number one.
I got you.
Yeah, that's
Which I figured.
yeah. Entity structure, choosing that entity in the beginning. I see that all the time. Understanding what a tax write off is, what a business expense is.
There you go.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's two different things?
It's basically the same
Okay,
same
okay,
thing.
okay.
Yeah. So like whenever we say, okay, you're gonna want to write this off, what we're saying is like you're gonna take it as a business expense. Okay.
I got you.
Expense is the formal accounting word for it.
I got you.
Write off
Yeah.
is basically a slang. Okay.
Yeah, because again, when
Yes.
you hear those YouTubers, when they say,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to Dubai or I'm going to a dinner,
Yes.
I'm going to write it off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what they mean. They're gonna take it as a business.
They're going to take it
expense.
as a business expense.
Yes.
Now you guys know.
Yes.
There you go.
And not keeping track of their records.
Mm.
That is so bookkeeping. They, I don't know why this has come to be, but over time I find people value bookkeeping less and less. They don't see the value of it, which I find interesting because I'm like, that's exactly how you know your business is operating numerically at all times. That's how you know what's going out the door. It's how you build your budgets. Otherwise, you're just throwing money at whatever. When somebody's coming at you and being like, "Hey, I have this marketing idea, and it costs you $10,000," and you're just like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's go for it." But in reality, you actually can't afford it because your marketing budget for the whole year was $8,000.
Question for you. It just came to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're doing somebody's bookkeeping,
Yeah.
right? And do they call you ahead of time? Like, hey, I want to buy a car or whatever the case may be. I want to buy a car. They call you and they're like, hey, this car is this amount. Can I buy it? How does that work?
Okay, so when I'm doing the bookkeeping,
Yeah.
the client, whoever is the bookkeeping client, is always going to get updated financial statements.
Yes.
Mostly it's every month. If they're a consistent client, sometimes it's quarterly. So they should know where they stand financially. They should know where their income is. They should know where their cash is sitting at.
Gotcha.
They should be able to make educated decisions.
They should be able to
Should
make.
be able to. Now, because a lot of people will come to me and they'll say, "Okay, I want this car. Is it better if I lease it? Is it better if I buy it?"
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
I get that question all the time. I first explain to them how writing off the car works.
Yeah.
So when you lease a car, the tax write off, the business expense, it occurs as you pay for the car. So every time you make the lease payment,
Exactly.
it's an expense. Okay. When you purchase a car, it's a little different. Usually we get loans on cars, and we write cars off over 5 years. Now,
Oh, okay.
there's special depreciation rules depending on how heavy the car is.
I was gonna say, yeah, like that's why these business owners get the G-Wagon because it weighs like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the other thing I always tell business owners is Don't go spend $100,000 to save 10. Like, don't go put yourself in a bunch of debt on a G-Wagon
Yeah.
just because you're going to save a few bucks tax-wise. I mean, if that's going to put you, again, in that, like, oh my gosh, I have all this debt to pay off, but I really should be spending my money on marketing and putting it genuinely back into the business,
Yeah.
don't do it. Like, don't do it to save a few bucks. Like, there, or because your friends have the G wagons in their businesses. Like, don't do it because of that.
Exactly.
Like, you know, you need to go with what you're comfortable with purchasing and what's not going to, you know, possibly destroy your business. You don't want to make purchases that way.
Thank you for clarifying that, because I had no. Now it makes sense, at least for me. Yeah, guys. And then I want to go back, because you were saying, like, bookkeeping, keeping track of everything that is not as popular anymore. What kind of apps, I guess, because now everything is digital, right? What kind of apps would you recommend? Obviously, the ones that, that come up in advertisement, like QuickBooks and all that stuff.
Yeah.
What would you recommend?
QuickBooks is my number one.
There you go.
All the
Okay.
time. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, like I grew up on QuickBooks, so for me, I love it. The online version, and for those newer businesses, they won't understand. It's not the desktop old school version, which is way better, but it's fine. That's what QuickBooks has pushed for over the years, so here we are. That is my like number one favorite, bookkeeping software. Not everybody can afford it out of the gate when they own a business. So I always tell business owners there's nothing wrong with keeping track of your income and expenses in Excel in the beginning. I give a lot of my clients, a worksheet that they can work off of and copy the tab over every month until they get to a place where it's like, no, you cannot use the Excel sheet anymore. You need an accounting software. But it comes at a cost. So
Hey, that Excel sheet is it just to kind of organize them? The Excel sheet that you have?
yeah, so the one that I have, it organizes your income, your expenses into basically tax categories of how you would write it off. But it creates, the way I have it set up is, as long as you get your income and all your expenses in there correctly, it's going to tell you what your net income is at the end of the day for that month or for the year if you put them all in there for the year.
Hey, do you have that Excel sheet like available anywhere online?
I've never put it online, but
We'll put it in the description, guys.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah, we can.
No, and I think, again, because Natalie, having her here is like, this is all she didn't have to be here, guys. Like, but this is genuine stuff. Like, she's really here to help you guys. You know what I mean? If you guys have any questions, like, I've asked her so many questions, she could have charged me by now. Yeah, she should have charged me by now, but because you're genuinely, trying to help people and all that, I think it's important. And I think that Excel sheet, I think, would definitely help a lot of people.
Yeah,
and we should definitely.
Yeah, we can put it in the description, like you said, and I can also, I could put it on my resources page on our website as well too. Yeah.
Hey, have you made any like ebooks or anything like that yet?
I haven't made any.
I think you
I
should.
am
No lie.
working on a book, though.
Yeah. Oh,
yes.
No way.
Yes, I am.
What?
I am working on a book. I've been this 2024 for me was a big whirlwind. I had a lot that happened.
How many people know about this?
My close friends and family.
All right, cool. Now expose.
Yeah. Now I have to do
yeah,
it.
I mean, you don't have to tell us much, but just tell us,
Yeah.
the journey of.
Yeah. So basically, what I wanted to be is like a book for newer entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
I want to take people through those first 5 years of entrepreneurship.
I got you.
I came up with a title. I hope we'll be able to use it. So it's called "I'll Sleep When I'm Dead." Because
My dad says that.
Yeah. So
that's a great title, by the way.
Because entrepreneurship and owning a business, I think, shocks a lot of people in the beginning. You will go through twists, turns, ups, downs, headaches, depression, you name it. In those first few years, you're not going to know what the hell you're doing. People are going to give you bad advice. People are going to try to tear you down.
Take advantage.
Yes, just taking advantage, knowing you're a newer business. Everybody's going to come at you for money all the time, whether it be for a service, charity, wanting a refund because they don't want to pay you. They generally, you didn't do anything wrong, but they just don't want to pay you. They're just
Interesting.
those types of people.
Yeah.
So I want to help people as much as possible in those first few years, to try and avoid some of the mistakes that I made. So if I can help somebody avoid those mistakes and help them get to where it is that they want to be faster, or maybe not even faster, just with less headache and less of the ups and downs, I would like to be able to
You
do.
pretty much just want to equip them with the tools
Yes.
and get them towards where they need to be.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because I think a lot of books or things that we see online, it's all the pretty things about
Of course.
entrepreneurship.
Of course.
It's
They don't talk about the bad side and
yeah, they
the
don't.
headaches.
Yeah, they don't talk about the bad side, or, I'll be honest. Like, I've gone through several depressions now, like from owning a business, and every time I learn from the mistake that I made, because the mistakes that I made that shot me into those depressions could have been very catastrophic to my business and killed it.
I got you.
And every time I've gone through it, I come out the other side and I'm like, okay, I've learned, I can move on with life. And you're able to handle the next catastrophe like it's no big deal.
Exactly. Because, yeah, I mean, if you got into so much, you're like, if I got over these three,
Yes.
then this one's going to be a piece of cake.
This is fine. All
I
of a
got you.
sudden, the things that you worried about the first day you own a business, you could honestly give a shit about 5 years later. Nothing is perfect. It never will be. So that's the way it rolls in the beginning. So
But it also, you know what? It also ties in with like branding, because you pretty much are your own walking billboard as well.
yeah, you are.
Because it kind of molds you as a person as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I could say too, like, if you met me the day before I started my first business versus
Yeah.
the person I am now, there's a piece obviously at my core that's still the same, but there's a lot
Yeah.
that's different. Much different. I even think all the time when I talk to clients, I'm like, gosh, even when I talk to clients, the way I talk now to a client versus how I used to talk, it's night and day.
That is crazy. I was just talking about this last night when I had the interview with the gentleman. Like, the way he told me, he's like, yeah, bro, I always saw you. You were well dressed. For those that don't know, I was in property management, so obviously you got to dress, business attire.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling him, I was like, yeah, man. I'm like, that's just how you saw me. Like, outside of work, I was born and raised Santana. You know what I mean? I was with all that and long socks and
Yeah.
shorts, bald headed. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I would dress outside. But ever since I joined like the financial services, right? More business, started meeting business owners, started meeting entrepreneurs. Like, I made a choice to kind of obviously change the way that I speak, change the way that I look now. I don't wear those long socks and shorts and baggy clothes anymore, just because people they do judge.
Oh, for
They
sure.
do judge, which I understand. That's just human nature.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, if I want to build my business,
Yeah.
I got to make sure I look the part, I walk the part,
Yeah.
I am the part.
Mm-hmm.
And I have noticed the difference for
Yeah.
sure. Like, I may be tatted, you guys see these tattoos, but I mean, you put me with the person who's the CEO, I can definitely have a conversation with him. I'll be well mannered, respectful, shake your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's another important thing. Good thing that you brought that up, because I think that's very important. Same
Yeah.
thing that you were saying with your fashion.
Yeah.
You were like, I'm gonna start wearing colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just who you are.
Yeah.
And I think people naturally gravitate towards genuine and people like ourselves, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. I people need to be comfortable with you,
Mhm.
especially when you're in the financial services industry. I mean, if you look at all the information that I have on a client, like, honestly, if I wanted to tomorrow, I could swipe everything that you have just based on the information that I have. I mean, I got your social, I got your bank information, I got your address, I got your dates of birth, I got your kids' dates of birth. I know when your parents died, probably. I
But
know
it's
where you
that
work.
but it's that trust though that you
They
have.
have to trust you.
Exactly.
Yes, because technically you could take
If you
everything.
wanted to.
Yeah, if you really wanted to and you were that type of person. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you have to be a trusting person. And I mean, obviously, in our industries, you have to be very ethical. And that is part of like why we
I
have
was
the
just gonna
ethics
bring that the
exams.
ethics.
It's not that I want to do that, but if somebody was a bad person, they could,
Yeah,
So clients do have to be able to trust you, and you have to be relatable. And
that's true. And you do gotta be relatable. I forgot
yeah,
about that
yeah,
for sure.
you have to be relatable because, and I think that's one mistake a lot of um, people in professional services and in the financial industry, attorneys, not to talk bad about you, but you guys do it all the time. CPAs guilty of it. You talk down to your clients
Mm.
and you use all these codes and words, from like the IRS codes, like, oh, it's section blah blah blah. Like, I'll give you any, like, section 121 homeowners exclusion. I'm sorry, but the client don't give a fucking shit that it says section 121. They just want to know what it means.
Exactly.
So just because you can say the number and what section code, and it looks like you've memorized the entire IRS tax code, which guess what? You haven't. Nobody has.
Goddamn.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Literally, clients don't care. And maybe that's why I have some of those clients that keep coming back and asking me every little question,
Yeah.
and they can't make a decision a lot of times without me. It's because I don't talk down to them. I was like, even though my parents were successful entrepreneurs, I was raised around a very blue collar family. My dad owned a construction business for many years, owned gas station, owned real estate.
Your dad's a genius.
Yeah,
No, I mean he just took advantage of, what
yeah,
leveraging debt, all that. Was
yes,
able to find success in other assets.
yes, exactly,
Hmm.
and other assets, and neither one of my parents graduated even high school. So my family has a very specific way of talking, even though they're all very smart.
Hmm.
They're not using big words. So I have always, I guess, been able to speak to people that
Yeah.
way. And granted, school wise, I am much further educated than them school wise. That's
Yeah.
it. Um, if I start to say words that are too big, sometimes they'll be like, oh, say that again. I like that word, and tell me what it means,
Can you define it for me?
like, like one time I used the word acquiesce, which we use in a lot of IRS letters that we're writing back to the IRS.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really thought about it, and I said it one time to my parents, and my dad was like, "Wait, what's that word? What does that mean?" He's like, "Say that again." I'm going to start using that from now on. But then there's other times where if I do get up on my, pedestal and I start talking, my family's real quick to be like,
Mm.
you speak to us normal.
I got you.
Yeah, you're not going to do that to us. Like,
I
don't
got
throw
you.
your. They think a lot of times I'm throwing my education in
I
their
understand.
face, but
Yeah.
I'm not. That's not what I'm trying to do. It's just I can't help it sometimes. It does come out sometimes, but but same thing. Like, I'm able to sit there with, like, and I think that's why I have such a broad spectrum of clients too, is because I can sit there with the new entrepreneurs that maybe aren't super educated, haven't been in the big boardrooms and around all the attorneys and the bankers and the CPAs, and
They're not word savvy.
yeah, they're not word savvy. They don't know how to sit properly at the table and place their forks and knives just so. But then I've been around the big ones too, so I can switch it back and forth all the time. So.
But I think that's important for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, you have to be versatile and be able to do both.
I love that.
Yeah.
And then, so it's 2025 now, Natalie.
Mm-hmm.
What is something that, how do you see 2025 for yourself? Right? You
For
being
myself?
yeah, for yourself personally. Like with the business, all that, what kind of plans do you have for yourself for 2025? Have you thought about it?
Yes, I haven't formally written it down like I usually do.
Interesting.
And I think that's something I actually told myself the other day. I think I needed to do that and write down my plans. Because at the beginning of the year, I was like, I'm going to wing it a little bit this year. And a couple of weeks in,
I'm gonna go with the flow.
yeah, my heart's like clenching a little bit. I was like, no, that's a bad idea. I gotta go back and write it down. Bad idea. Because I'm not one for resolutions. I tend to write down goals.
Yeah.
So I've never done the vision board thing. I don't knock anybody that does it. Some people they say it works really well. So maybe that's something I need to jump on, is doing a vision board. For me personally, I am focusing very hard on my business, but also I'm not trying to work more hours. That's not the goal this year. So I'm focusing on the business and in training the staff, making them more capable, so they can handle more projects on their own and handle more client questions on their own. Creating more processes in the firm and manuals and things like that. We opened up a second business, so
Nice.
I always saw this, like, I guess divide, I guess you could say, where it's like there's clients that can afford our services and need us, and there's clients that they're not clients right now, but there is a whole slew of taxpayers or soon to be entrepreneurs out there that just aren't quite there yet, like where they can't really afford our services, they don't really need my expertise, so they're probably better serviced by someone else. But like I said earlier, I have a hard time saying no. So
Which is good or bad thing.
Yes, it's good and bad. So I have started to create a second firm with a partner who she will oversee more of that. She is a C-Tech, but she used to work at a CPA firm, so she's not, she's very well educated. She also owned a business for many years on her own that was not an accounting firm. So she's a very smart lady, just doesn't have, that same licensing that I have, and the same type of experience. So I am backing her basically to where she has access to me, can ask me questions at any point in time. I am helping her put the business together. Everything still ran like under my software and under my system, and she's following my processes.
Yes.
So I'm basically handing her an already put together business.
Which doesn't happen often, I'm assuming, right?
Never.
Right? For somebody new to just come in and then Natalie be like, you know what, this is my system. This is the way we're going to be running things.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Here you go.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes. And our goal with that is to help clients that, like I said, aren't there at our level yet, but they still need a good service, and it can't be those smaller chop shop type firms. It can't be the chain ones that you see around, because they're just not at that right level.
I got you.
And one day, hopefully, those clients will be able to switch over to our main firm and afford my services and, need my services at that time. So, and it's not that they don't need it. It's that sometimes I'm dealing with such big issues that are, millions and millions of dollars for people, that sometimes when somebody sends me, a $60 question, it's not to be mean. It's just, well, I'm helping somebody make a $10 million payment right now. Like, the $60 one has to maybe come second. Yeah. Because I'm dealing with such big numbers. And if I mess up on that $10 million payment, or I make a mistake on that, that's on me. If I was to make a mistake on a $60 payment, that's a completely different ballgame for me.
I got you.
So,
it makes sense.
I can only focus my time and energy so much.
I got you.
As well. So those are the big things for the business this year. And my hope is, with the processes and the training, that I can start to, maybe take Sundays off.
Yes, take the holy days off for sure.
And maybe hopefully one day Saturdays too. And
I get you.
At least be able to work on other things, such as my book, such as traveling, spending some time with my family, and maybe working on some other personal, like, bucket list things that
there you go.
I need to check off the boxes for. So
I
Yeah.
think you will. It's
Yeah.
gonna come through. And what do you think about 2025 overall? The way I see 2025 personally, I think this is the years. These 4 years are pretty much gonna determine, I think, personally speaking, whether you're the real entrepreneur that you say you are or not. For those that are trying to start their business, are you gonna do it now? Because if you don't do it now, it's never gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think this year is gonna be it's gonna be great with the market. I think the market's gonna be good. Housing is gonna be good. They're gonna drop points in the interest rates for the
Mm-hmm.
houses, so that's gonna be great. But I've always told myself like if you don't hop on this train right now, like you're gonna get left behind. Cause it's true. Like only the ones that have the business and know exactly how to foresee their businesses are gonna thrive. Personally speaking,
Mm-hmm.
because you won't be able to survive in the United States just being a W-2 anymore.
You got to
I don't think
something.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna need to start your own business. You're gonna need an extra cash flow because your W-2 is not gonna make it. So I think these 4 years are gonna be it. But how do you see 2025? Well,
20
these 4 years. There you
these
go.
next 4 years.
Yeah.
There is a lot of changes. I mean, like you were mentioning the dropping the points for the interest rates. That's going to be big. There's going to be a lot of change in tax law. I
Mm.
think because when Trump came into office the first time, a lot of the items from the TCJA were set to expire in 2025. Now, I think that was put into place assuming he would probably be president 8 years in a row.
Mm.
And obviously, we didn't have that. There is a 4 year gap where we had uh, Joe Biden as
Mm-hmm.
president. So now that he's coming back in when all of his original plans were set to expire, I think we will see some of those things re implemented,
Mm-hmm.
but not all of them. I think they have learned from some things and hopefully will make some tax laws better. And get rid of some of the ones that were like, do we really need this?
No, I get you. I
Yeah.
understand.
So, but they're going to have to be really careful of that because actually, a lot of the things that were set to expire could be extremely costly to small business owners this year.
Yes.
Yes, after this year. So,
Mm-hmm.
so that's big. The cost of living here in the United States of America is just it's outrageous. And to your point of what you're saying, I don't think that you can have a W-2 and live here comfortably anymore. Yes, there are a few of people out there that are making a few $100,000 to $1 million a year off of their W-2, and they're going to be somewhat okay, somewhat.
Somewhat.
Yeah. But the cost of housing is just
I know.
it's insane. The cost of gas. I mean, looking at the cost of eggs again.
Oh, I know.
Big
You saw that?
problem. Yeah.
Yeah. You saw that?
Yes.
Ridiculous.
Yes, it's ridiculous. So I'm like, how do normal everyday families even afford this?
Because my mama, I mean, my mama used to go to TJ
Uh-huh.
to buy eggs,
Uh-huh.
but now they're not, Border Patrol obviously is not letting them,
Yeah, they don't let them come over.
which is BS, because but yeah, but you're right. Overall, the living expenses here is getting ridiculous, at least here in California.
Oh yeah.
I would say just here in California, because if you were to go to Nevada or somewhere outside the states, I think you'll be fine. Which is another thing. I mean, this is just me personally. If I could, if everything goes well this year, I'm moving out of state. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
yeah, I'm moving out of state. Obviously one of the no state tax states, Florida, Tennessee, Nevada.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's my go-to. Obviously, no state tax and all that stuff. You can
Yeah.
take advantage, but I think people really need to start looking into that. Because Cali is. I love Cali. We have the beaches, we have the mountains, we have
There's
everything
nothing
here.
like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. The weather, but it is getting it is getting a little bit out of hand, I think
Yeah.
personally.
It's not getting. It is there. It keeps getting worse. I mean, obviously we have the fire issue that just happened.
Hmm.
That burned thousands of homes. So which makes our housing shortage even worse than it already was, to be honest. Um, but we've seen definitely like an outflux of people just going. I have clients all the time, every year, that have been calling me for the past 5-6 years saying, I'm out of here, I'm on my way to Tennessee, I'm
Yeah,
on my way to Nevada, and they're moving their whole business.
exactly.
Yeah,
You have businesses moving from California to
yeah,
Texas and all those other states.
yeah, and it's sad to see because California is such a wonderful place. I've never been anywhere else that I've wanted to live.
Yeah,
Um, and I, I think it's also, partially our own fault because we've continued to vote a specific way.
yeah.
And we've kind of put ourselves there.
In that situation.
Yeah, in that
I know what you mean.
situation. So we vote a specific way and then we leave. And it's like, well, actually, had you maybe had just voted a different
Yeah.
way,
No, I get
you
you.
may not have had this problem and you could have stayed here. So, and I mean, that's the thing is a lot of the clients that I have had that have moved out of state. Here's one thing with CPAs, maybe some people don't know. Because we have access to so much of you personally and there is so much trust, people feel free to talk to us about everything. So, a lot of times I know which way people are voting because we have conversations about it. And
Yeah.
I tend to keep my political beliefs out of the business.
The business.
Yeah. But I listen to what my clients have to say, and a lot of them vote a specific way,
Mm-hmm.
which is exactly what we have now. And then they're like, "Oh, by the way, I'm taking my business and leaving."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
But it all goes back to research, guys. You guys, it does. It all goes back to look into obviously look into your city, look who's running up,
mm-hmm.
right? Look into your mayors, look into all that, do your investigation, and then vote properly, right? But Natalie, my last question for you would be, for those that are trying to get in contact with you,
Mm-hmm.
how would they be able to get in contact with you and they need their services? Where can they find you?
Oh, sure. So they can go on our website, which is calproaccountants.com. You can submit your information on there. It comes right to us, and we'll reach out and set up a consultation. I'm on Instagram, which I had to start a brand new one, so the account's barely up and running, but it's NMETheCPA. Also on TikTok, which I think is available for 3 more days.
Oh yeah, as of this recording.
As of this recording. Facebook, which is Natalie Elser, CPA. They can call us 833-272-1099.
Hey.
So, yeah, we got
And
a
then
little
don't worry,
jingle.
guys. Everything's going to be in the description below. Don't worry, all that information for her, as well as the Excel sheet. But what would a message be, or what would you be able to tell people, the ones who are trying to start their own business, right? What would that message be if you can give them a couple words?
Oh, just go for it. Yeah, just go for it. Fear paralyzes us, I think.
It does.
And a lot of times we're more capable than we think we are.
Damn, I love that. You guys heard it here. Natalie, it was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Like I said, this was long overdue. This episode, I think it's very informative. If we can change, at least the goal for this episode is if we can change at least one person's mind,
Mm-hmm.
I think we did our job.
Yeah.
And, hopefully some things that Natalie spoke about kind of sparks that get you started in your own business, or whether you already have an established business. If you have any questions, Natalie's here. All her information is going to be in the bottom. But guys, I appreciate you. Thank you guys for joining us here in the episode. We have more episodes that are going to be coming up. Don't worry. Stay tuned. Again, I am your host, Nestor Liberato. Instagram is NextLevelOC. Go ahead and follow the podcast, Under.Buisness.Mindset. Everything will be in the description below. We'll catch you guys on the next one.